Just one sentence from the Buddha helped Mandela walk out of prison without carrying chains in his heart. The wind on Robben Island blew like a thin blade, slicing through torn prison uniforms, cutting into the flesh of men who were numbered instead of being called by name. The distant coastline was shrouded in mist. The sky was gray. The sea was gray. The entire island felt like a prison rising from ashes. In the labor yard, each hammer strike against limestone echoed clack, 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 like a clock counting down a life. Prisoner 466-64 bent his back, his calloused hands gripping the pickaxe handle. Each time the blade struck down, white stone dust burst up like smoke. The dust crept into eyes, noses, lungs. People said that dust slowly ate away eyesight, leaving many prisoners blind in old age. But the eyes of 466-64 were still bright. Bright in a way that unsettled the guards. Not arrogant brightness, but unyielding. His name was Nelson Mandela. He was not the only one imprisoned, but in the eyes of the prison, he was a disease. A symbol. A reminder that some forms of power could not be locked behind iron bars. From the very first day on the island, Mandela understood this was not merely a place to confine bodies. It was a place meant to break souls. And to break a soul, people often used a simple method: provocation. The guard newly transferred to the island had cold blue eyes, a sharp chin, and a smile like a cut. His name was Brant. The first day Brant saw Mandela, he stood leaning on his baton and asked mockingly, "Are you Mandela?" Mandela did not look up immediately. He brushed the stone dust from his hands and replied slowly, "I am Mandela." Brant laughed and spat on the ground. "There is no I here, only numbers. You are 466/64. Remember that." That evening, as prisoners lined up for their meal, thin porridge like rice washing water, Brant deliberately knocked over Mandela's bowl. The porridge spilled onto the concrete floor, sour, bland, cold. Brant bent down close to his ear. "Next time you speak using I, I'll make you starve." Mandela stood still. His jaw tightened. His hand trembled slightly, like a man holding a beast tight inside his chest. The prisoners behind him watched, waiting for a reaction, a reply, a counterstrike. If Mandela lost his temper, Brant would have an excuse to beat him, isolate him, cut his rations, ban visits. The guards needed that excuse like an addict needed a dose. But Mandela simply picked up the bowl, wiped it clean, and walked away. Brant sneered. He thought, he's afraid. But Mandela knew, if I explode, they win. In the cramped cell, Mandela lived among men carrying many kinds of wounds. Wounds on their skin and deeper wounds. Wounded pride, hatred, and despair. The most hot-tempered was Peter, a young activist newly arrested. He was like heated steel. "We can't endure this humiliation." Peter growled in the darkness. "Did you see? They poured porridge on your head. You stood there like stone. You're a leader, and yet..." Mandela looked at Peter. He saw in the young man a part of himself from years past, fiery, righteous, but easily dragged away by anger. Mandela spoke softly. "Anger can burn down prison doors, but it can also burn our hearts first." Peter laughed scornfully. "You talk like a monk. We need action, not morality." Mandela did not respond. He turned to face the wall, as if the insult were just a passing wind. But that night, when everyone slept, Mandela could not. Not because of Brant, not because of hunger, not because of cold, but because of Peter's words, "You're a leader, and yet..." Mandela suddenly realized his silence, though strategically correct, was making some prisoners doubt. They needed a leader not only of reason, but also of fire. He asked himself, am I afraid? Am I calm? Or am I avoiding confrontation? It was the first moment in prison that Mandela saw something painful. The enemy did not stand only outside the bars. The enemy could also lie within, under the names ego and fear of judgment. He returned to a teaching he once heard from an old friend, someone lost in protests years earlier. See your own faults. Do not rush to see the faults of others. Mandela whispered in the darkness, if I only see Brant's faults, I won't see the thorn in my own heart. 1 week later, Brant found an excuse. In the labor yard, an elderly prisoner collapsed from exhaustion. Brant kicked him in the ribs. Get up! Even if you die, die standing. Mandela stepped forward. Just one step. He said, not loudly but clearly, don't hit him. Brant spun around, eyes lighting up with pleasure as if he had found prey. Oh, number 466 wants to be a hero? He swung his baton straight into Mandela's shoulder. A dry crack. Mandela staggered but did not fall. Brant struck again, one blow to the back, one to the arm. Peter shouted, "Stop!" Brandt turned and struck Peter as well. Peter lunged forward, restrained by two other guards. The yard erupted into chaos. Finally, Mandela was dragged away. The iron door of solitary confinement slammed shut bang, like closing a coffin. Dark room. No bed. Only damp concrete and a bucket. Mandela sat against the wall, breathing heavily. His shoulder throbbed. His back burned like fire. And in that darkness, anger surged like a flood. He thought of Brandt, of humiliation, of beaten prisoners, of a crushed nation. He wanted revenge. He wanted to scream. He wanted to smash his head against the door. But then, he heard his own breathing. So clearly it felt as if someone else were in the room. Mandela suddenly understood. Anger creates one more jailer. Outside were iron bars. Inside was hatred. Iron bars can be opened by politics, by time. But hatred can only be opened by awareness. He closed his eyes, not to beg, but to look inward. What do I want? What am I truly hurting from? He saw. He was hurting not only because he was beaten, but because he was humiliated, treated as a number, despised. And that was the gateway to suffering, the ego. Mandela smiled faintly, a smile not joyful, but clear. See your own faults. Do not rush to see the faults of others. He repeated it like a mantra, not to forgive Brandt, but to save himself from being controlled by Brandt. On the third day of solitary confinement, Mandela was given a scrap of paper and a dull pencil. Rare humanity. He wrote a letter, without a recipient. I once thought my enemies were those who held the whip, but I have just seen this. They hold the whip only when I give them power in my heart. If I let hatred grow, I will leave prison wearing invisible chains. If I learn to see my own faults first, I may walk free, even before the door opens. He stopped writing, fell silent. That letter was not sent outward. It was sent deep within, to another Mandela. The hot-headed youth, the interrupter, the one who thought being right was enough. He saw his fault. Sometimes he clung so tightly to ideals that he forgot humans need not only justice, but compassion. And compassion, strangely, does not weaken strength. It refines it. When Mandela was released from solitary, Brandt stood waiting in the corridor like before a fight. He looked at the bruises on Mandela's shoulder and laughed. See? Even heroes feel pain. Mandela walked past without speaking. Brandt blocked him. I'll ask you, do you regret speaking up? The question was bait. One arrogant sentence and Brandt would call it defiance. For a few seconds, the whole prison seemed to hold its breath. Peter stood afar, eyes bloodshot. Other prisoners fell silent. Mandela looked at Brandt, looked deeply into his eyes. Then he said calmly, I regret that I once thought people like you were only demons. Brandt frowned. What did you say? Mandela continued, I see in you a man who is afraid. Afraid of losing power, afraid of being seen as small. You hit others to forget that fear. I regret that before. I only saw your faults and did not see that I, too, sometimes wanted to use force to hide my fear. Brandt froze. He wanted to curse, to strike, but strangely he couldn't, because Mandela was not speaking to win. He was holding up a mirror. Brandt stammered, You? You think you understand me? Mandela nodded slightly. I'm not sure I understand you, but I know one thing. If I nurture hatred, I will be a prisoner for life. I don't want that. Brandt fell silent. From that day on, Brandt no longer knocked over Mandela's porridge. He remained strict, cold, but in his eyes, something was no longer sharp. One afternoon, Mandela was summoned to the administration office. Old newspaper. The administrator pointed to a short article. Some leaders of the movement outside were suspected of corruption, power struggles, even secret negotiations for personal gain. The administrator sneered. That's your ideal. That's your freedom. Mandela stared at the print. It felt as if someone squeezed his heart, not with fear, but pain. Pain because those he trusted might have lost their way. The administrator leaned in, voice honeyed. Just sign a declaration renouncing the movement and we'll let you out. You'll live like a normal man. Forgotten, untouched, no prison. In return, you only say, I was wrong. It was temptation, a door opening in hell. Mandela looked at the pen. Images flashed. Winnie, his wife, his children, his mother, his country. Then a cruel thought arose. They betrayed me. Why sacrifice anymore? The world is full of bad people. I should just go home. Mandela jolted. The thought slithered like a snake. And in that moment, the teaching rang like a bell. See your own faults. Do not rush to see the faults of others. He asked himself, whose faults am I seeing? Am I angry at them or at my wounded ego when my faith collapsed? If he signed, he would blame others to justify his surrender. If he refused, he had to accept a painful truth. Allies can be wrong, and he himself may have idealized them. Mandela put the pen down. He said, "If someone is wrong, I grieve, but I will not use their faults as a reason to betray myself." The administrator scowled. "You want to die old in prison?" Mandela replied, "If my freedom must be bought by trampling my conscience, that is not freedom." The door closed, but Mandela felt another door open within, the door of dignity without resentment. Late one night, keys rattled. The cell door opened. Mandela sprang up instinctively. Brant stood there, no whip, no baton, only a pale face as if ill. "Mandela," he whispered, no longer calling him number. Mandela looked at him, wary. "What is it?" Brant took a deep breath, like swallowing a stone. "My son just died. An accident. I didn't make it in time to see him." His eyes reddened. Afraid of appearing weak, he turned away. Mandela was silent for a few seconds. In that moment, Brant was no longer a guard. He was a father who had lost a child, pain beyond race. Brant said hoarsely, "I've done everything, beaten people. Thought that made me strong. But today, I can't do anything." Mandela stepped close to the bars. "You are hurting, and you don't know where to put that pain." Brant clutched the door as if collapsing. "I hate you, Mandela. You look at me like I'm naked." Mandela spoke slowly. "I once hated others too, Brant, and I realized hating them makes me carry them in my heart like stones. I don't want to carry more stones." Brant let out a choked laugh. You forgive me?" Mandela did not answer immediately. He didn't want pretty words. He looked straight at him. "I don't know if I've fully forgiven you, but I am learning. And learning begins with seeing my own faults, seeing the part of me that still wants revenge, still wants to win." Brant stood stunned. For the first time between prisoner and guard, there was something that was neither power nor fear, but humanity. Brant turned away quickly, as if afraid to cry. Before closing the door, he said softly, barely audible, "Don't die in here, Mandela." The door closed. Mandela stood still, heart slowing. He knew Brant might still be Brant. Tomorrow he might be cruel again. But if even a small crack appeared in the wall of hatred, light had a way in. Years passed. The outside world changed. International pressure grew. The regime fractured. Secret negotiations began. One morning, Mandela was summoned. No words, only decent clothes handed to him. He understood the final door was about to open. In the changing room, he looked at himself in the mirror. An older man. White hair. Wrinkled skin. Eyes still bright. He remembered a cracked mirror from a story someone once told. A cracked mirror does not distort the image. It reminds us to look carefully. Mandela asked himself, what will I walk out carrying in my heart? If he walked out with hatred, the country would bleed. If he walked out with arrogance, the movement would fracture. If he walked out with awareness, reconciliation was possible. At that moment, the teaching returned. See your own faults. Do not rush to see the faults of others. Mandela understood. Reconciliation is not forgetting. It is not letting the past control the future. He walked out of prison. Light flooded his face. Cheers rose like the sea. But Mandela did not look at the crowd first. He looked down at his hands once chained. He felt as if he were holding a flame. If he threw that flame at enemies, the nation would burn. If he used it to light the way, the nation could live. Months later, in a rare meeting with former security forces, Mandela entered the room. Faces opposite were tense. Many had once been Brant in real life. A general asked bluntly, "Do you intend to take revenge?" The room held its breath. Mandela looked at them and said a sentence that shook the air. "If I leave prison still hating you, then I am still in prison." He paused, voice low. "I do not say you are innocent. I only say I also have faults. My fault was once believing that defeating you was enough. I learned that the hardest victory is not over an enemy, but over the hatred within oneself." Someone murmured, "You sound like the Buddha." Mandela did not claim sainthood. He only said, "I am just trying to live as a human who does not let others' faults blind his eyes." Many years later, when Mandela had become a symbol of reconciliation, someone asked him, "What was the hardest thing during your years in prison?" Mandela was silent for a long time, then answered, "The hardest was seeing every day that I could become the very person I hated." He smiled gently. "And reminding myself every day to see my own faults first. Otherwise, freedom is just trading one prison for another." The wind still blows over Robben Island. The limestone is still white. The bars are still cold. But something has changed. In the story of a nation, the strongest person is not the one who defeats the enemy, but the one who is not defeated by hatred. Because sometimes the greatest crack is not in prison walls, but in the heart. And only by seeing that crack can healing begin. See your own faults. Do not rush to see the faults of others. Thank you for listening until the end. If you believe that changing the world begins with looking back at ourselves, we still have many stories to tell together.